The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall continue to follow me all the days of this protracted process of death. I will dwell in the house of the most super intelligent. Enough to do some night driving last night. And, it was an epidemic of slow four-wheelers choosing to ride behind me at 45 miles an hour with my flashers on. One of them followed me so long, I finally just pulled over onto the shoulder to get shit of them. And as soon as I did that, here came an SUV towing a travel trailer, did the exact same thing. Just tucked in behind me at 45 miles an hour. What's wrong with people? And what I've noticed is once I start to get a little, I don't even know that tired is the right word, but I don't do good if I've been awake all day and it's been daytime and then it turns nighttime and I'm driving. That's night driving. But these companies can't figure it out because I actually am most productive when I go to sleep. I wake up and it's what they think of night as nighttime, but it's morning time for me. So they can't really tell the difference. And I can tell them till I'm blue in the face. Night driving's if I've been up all day and it gets nightfall. And if I have to keep driving, that's night driving. So then they think, oh, he doesn't want to drive at night. It's like, no, I want to drive early in the morning, but to them, 2 a.m. is never early in the morning. It's only ever late at night because they live in houses and apartments. And they go home to their Netflix, and they probably stay up till 2 a.m. or midnight. So they can't ever make that connection, which I find fascinating. And some of them can, but most of them can't. I got a new dispatcher, so maybe he'll figure it out. But, not that they care. You know, why would they? Not that they give a damn. They work on commission. So I drove till about 1, I think I was done at 1 a.m., which is about the time I'd like to be starting my day. So a completely flipped schedule, as I suspected would be the case. As I suspected would be the case. Let's get on around there. Little Ford Fiesta. Don't you see that right lane in sign? The air horn shook them out of their reverie. And they had me go through one of my least favorite routes, which is I-40. If you stay on I-40 east out of Knoxville, Tennessee, to Asheville, North Carolina, and it's under construction, even worse. And it's really not that bad of a road. It's real twisty and windy, except trucks are prohibited in the passing lane. And it has really low speed limits. Well, now it's under construction, so it's most of it, a lot of it's one lane. 45 minutes of nowhere to stop for a bathroom. The plight of the trucker, right? Suck it up, buttercup, indeed. But it's apropos of something, I suppose. And I watched a YouTube video last night. I listened to one about there was a snowstorm, I guess, in Indianapolis. Well, real quick before I forget, they told me the route to take, and I was like, well, any particular reason you want me to go through Knoxville? Because it didn't save any time. And they said, oh, there's a snowstorm we need to avoid. I said, all right, well, good looking out. I'm good in the snow. Everybody else is not so good in the snow anymore, seems like. So I listened to a YouTube video about a snowstorm in Indianapolis, and there was a big 45 car pileup on the I-70, and some guy that worked locally said it was the worst he'd ever seen. And the YouTube video, the content creator did a really good job of going through just, it seemed to have more or less been caused by people just sort of, number one, who probably didn't really have to go out into the conditions. And then people thinking, oh, well, we get snow every year. We know how to drive. And then cruising along at just more or less normal speeds until people start crashing. And I saw a lot of that myself near St. Louis a couple of weeks back. Because I'm good in the snow, but the few times I've stopped, other than for an actual blizzard, was when the people around me, I felt like were driving poorly. That's happened from time to time. So I took the back roads near St. Louis. It was the interstate, and it was holiday weekend. It was Thanksgiving weekend, so there really wasn't that much traffic yet on the roads. I think whichever day it was, there wasn't a lot of traffic on the interstate, but the interstate got so slow and backed up in parts. I'm pretty good with my GPS, so I was able to route myself onto the back roads. They were crashing on the back roads. This Indianapolis deal, they said it was like 160 wrecks total or something. I mean, that sounds like Arkansas. In Fayetteville, in Northwest Arkansas, every time it snowed, I remember there'd be one particular road with this 45-degree curve, and there'd be 15 cars in the ditch, every time it snowed. And there'd be a 6-hour traffic jam, if it snowed when everybody was trying to leave work or whatever. And then nobody would go out after that. So a lot of that Fayetteville stuff was college kids, driving around in it probably, or locals trying to go to work, sliding off the roads. But yeah, and I chalk it up to, I just don't think people care. I think most people, whether it's the psych meds or whatever's going on with them psychologically, and a lot of it is as we see the further degeneration of the normie, and my acknowledgement of the phenomenon of normies rushing in to normalize everything that is not incongruous. Well, it's quite congruous. When there's snowstorms, there's wrecks. So it seems to me like these normies, the further they go into their mind control and just their sort of, unconscious state, the more they just sort of do their thing, and whatever happens is just more or less normal. Yeah, from their perspective, yeah, we were driving down the interstate. Next thing you knew, 45 car pileup, like that's normal. But well, it ain't normal for Benton, because Benton slows the fuck down, leaves enough following distance so that, God forbid, there's a 45 car pileup. If you see those cell phone videos of these pileups, eventually it gets to where everybody's crashed that's going to crash, and then you'll have the vehicles who actually go slow and leave enough following distance. Well, they've stopped, right? And I'll be one of them. I drive based on being able to come to a full and complete stop at any time, based on the conditions, and not out driving the visibility, of course. Hey, it's Landry down there. What's up, man? Yeah, I've got about an hour, a little over an hour to make this delivery, so I figured I might as well run my yap for a few minutes. I've been tuning in over there from time to time, Mr. Landry. I'm so out of the loop, it's hard for me to piece together some of what's happening, but it's probably makes it more interesting in a way. So yeah, this was bad last night. It was just an epidemic of, and this happens sometimes driving a big rig. I'll go through a couple of hours where almost every car that catches up to me tries to follow me. And especially once I don't really get aggravated or annoyed by the traffic. It's more of a, if I'm being forced to drive at nighttime, I had to take one nap to even be safe to drive. But, I'll get into where I'll just slow way the fuck down. And that's sort of how I cope with, driving the long hours when I'm not really, it's my least productive time if I've been awake all day. Of course, I wake up, I'm up by 4 a.m. pretty much no matter what happens. So I think by the time I drove 2 hours to pick that load up. So yeah, by the time I got out of there, I drove like 8.5, almost 9 hours to make it to a truck stop, to drive 2 more hours to deliver today. Meanwhile, the load was supposed to be delivered right about the time my 10-hour break was ending. My government mandated 10-hour break, because they schedule these loads. I've talked about this before. It's based on the driver being at the shipping facility with a complete virgin clock, meaning they're loaded, they start their shift, and they have a full 11 hours of drive time. And so then they go straight through to the delivery. Right. And well, if I have to drive 2 hours to get there, it makes it physically impossible. Now we have to add a 10-hour break before we can get there, and a 30-minute break, lest we forget. This is where a lot of the problems with truck driving and foreign truckers, it's all been blamed on Biden, which is ridiculous, because it was all happening. When I went into trucking in 2018, it was certainly already happening and had been happening probably for decades. But, there's been so much corruption and so much loopholes, and the enforcement has been so lax that there's been enough truckers basically just running outside of the hours of service, the federally mandated hours of service, that the brokers and the scheduling of the loads, it's all been adjusted to that. And, it's very competitive. These brokers compete, to be able to have a contractual access to the business. And then they, subcontract or contract that out to motor carriers for the most part. Some brokerages also, have their own, motor carrier as well. But so a lot of these fly-by-night motor carriers, they have multiple, they call them MC numbers, motor carrier. And they just operate more or less illegally until, if the government ever actually shuts them down, or if they get their logs audited, well, they just shut down, and then they go to another MC number. So they'll shut down literally one day, and then the next day they'll open up shop with all the same office staff, all the same tractors, all the same trailers, all the same drivers, but under a different company name, a different, DOT number and MC number. And you just continue on. And so, which I don't really care. It's the part where now, I'm scheduled a lot of these loads, and then as more and more of these foreigners are leaving, and as some of the fly-by-night carriers are probably, starting to mind their P's and Q's a little bit more. So then more of this stuff falls into my lap, which I don't even, at this point, I don't give a fuck. I think I'm going to embrace the I don't give a fuck. I tried to quit, and I didn't threaten to quit. I said, basically, I'm quitting, which I don't, when I quit, I don't even give a notice, but we don't even have a terminal. Like I can't even really schedule home time. And then typically how I quit is I schedule home time, and then I get back to the terminal, clean the rig out, throw all my bullshit in my car, and drive away. Send a message on the Qualcomm or the tablet says, thanks for the laughs, right? Thanks for the laughs. I'm moving on. It's been a gas. Peace, right? War. Well, because StreamYard is garbage and there's a big old $ for a referral link, I can't actually read your comment, unfortunately. I would like to, but and this is why I refused to give StreamYard $221 half off when they had their Cyber Week sale. Because it's I like StreamYard. It has a lot of good features. It's just trash as far as paying for it. Garbage. Absolute garbage. Now I understand I can rotate the screen, and then perhaps I'll be able to read the comment. Maybe. I guess I could put it on the screen, but either way, either way. So what I noticed during this 8 days of continuing to work through extreme fatigue just to be able to get the truck and the trailer back to Chicago to quit, and then of course, we find out that even a strange oddball weirdo like Ben is just there's a bit of an upside to having him in the company. Somebody's got to drive the truck. So they said, is there anything we can do to convince you to stay? It was like, I could have tried to negotiate, try to get more money, try to get things to go in my favor, but that really kind of seems pointless, especially as my major draw to the job is to be able to live in the truck. Of course, the money, is always primary job, of course, but and they know what I'm capable of, and they know what to reasonably expect. So, and I do the best I can. For me, though, that's what I tell them. I say, yeah, I do the best I can, but I don't do that for y'all. I do that for me. So I'll just carry on, take my little 1,700 a week. Maybe I'll stay long enough that'll become 18 because eventually they'll stop taking $100 a week for the escrow. I'll annoy them here and there by like, for example, if we were to get inspected right about now, there is technically there's a crack in the windshield that's already too big. The windshield needs to be replaced, and it's just going to get larger, of course. Now, when it happened, it was already too big. Now, here's the thing: is do they believe me or not? You know, and here's where you get into, don't bullshit a bullshitter or whatever. It's like, and when I was quitting, I think I said something along those lines to the owner, because I know I'm generally speaking telling the truth, but is there the trust there for them to believe me? Because I heard the rock hit the windshield. I looked over and saw the chip, and then my first thought was, well, that's too big to, put the chemical in to stop it from growing. That's too big. So that's already a new windshield. Well, what if I just forget, or I'm lazy, or I don't feel like it? What if it initially was small enough? I just didn't say anything because I was finally getting my 3 days off that I only even got because of not threatening to quit. I was going to quit. So in fact, that's what I negotiated for myself, was 3 actual full days off. And, to get rested up enough to be back to normal. So maybe we'll make another month. But, why would I get that fixed on my 10-hour break? Meanwhile, windshield, you're looking at, somebody's got to come out and, what if it's 15 degrees outside and they got to take the windshield off the truck? It's like, where am I going to be? Hang out in the driver's lounge or whatever. This is crazy. I don't think it's gotten any bigger yet, though, so probably we'll try to grind out another 6 weeks or so on the job here and take some home time and probably check into a hotel. Off wherever, have it fixed. Let somebody else deal with it. But then it's like, I don't even like going to hotels because I live in the truck. All my stuff's in here, and it's like I need my stuff. So there ain't really no version of, well, just pack a bag and go to the hotel. It's like, well, yeah, but I need my things. So then what am I doing? Completely moving out of the truck? Yeah, I've done it before, physically taking everything and putting it in a motel room for a weekend or whatever. It's a good problem to have, I suppose, but way better than paying for an apartment, if you ask me. And, the so-called truth community seems to be insulated and blessed in a way where if folks have financial struggles and pressures, I don't ever hear anybody talking about it. So I don't know. Does people just have access to housing, I guess? Do everybody kind of live remotely somewhere on a piece of property? Like, I don't know what's going on. How are these people living, Landry? I don't know. Don't really care. But, curious, mostly because I see how much of the working class is, after having been squeezed and squeezed and squeezed financially, now to the point where a pretty sizable chunk of people who work full-time jobs, it's just not even possible for them to rent an apartment on one, 40-hour-a-week job. It's really just not a thing. Even that, my $700 a month converted hotel room in Fort Smith, Arkansas, I toyed with the idea of just getting some, tobacco store or whatever. But that pays, state minimum wage of $11 an hour. And, after taxes, that ends up being almost half of my take-home pay just to pay for the room. It's like, all right, well, even if I prepaid for a year of car insurance or whatever, which I've done before, by the time I buy food and put gas in the car or whatever, it's a wrap, man. And whatever little bit of odds and ends. And I live frugally most of the time. It's a wrap, partner. And I'm not willing to sacrifice on food. Now, I think most people, if they really took good records in a month of what they spend on food in its totality, I think a lot of people would be pretty surprised by what they spend on food. Because a lot of people just say, oh, well, it's so expensive to eat healthy. Like, it's expensive to eat. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think it's any more expensive to eat healthy than to just eat. Personally, how are people affording DoorDash and then saying that they can't? It costs too much to go to the grocery store and get, which, as we know, isn't even really quality food much of the time. But what passes for quality food anyway? And people they're addicted to junk food. I was addicted to junk food for many, many years myself. I get it. Few people can. Even when I got into health and nutrition and fitness and all of that, and did get proper nutrition, I still ate a lot of garbage. But convinced myself I was being healthy, even though I really wasn't. I know the game is. Most people, under no circumstances, are ever going to forego, whatever they're into. Little Caesars Pizza, McDonald's, Taco Bell. I see McDonald's is still thriving in many areas. Whether I'm truck driving or traveling around or whatever it may be, and especially in the more red statey, MAGA-y areas, McDonald's is kicking ass, man. You can't even hardly, you get your ass run over if you're trying to walk down a sidewalk. You better keep your head on a swivel when you cross in front of that McDonald's. They will run you over, buddy. Getting in and out of there. And it's sort of like cigarettes. We had years and years where people saying, oh, once they get to X amount of dollars a pack, I'm going to quit. And I think what people finally realize is they'll pay whatever they got to pay. They're addicted. Well, same things with the junk food and the fast food. Yeah, McDonald's can be $20. They're paying $20. DoorDash proved a lot to me, and Uber Eats. It's like how are people affording $30 and $40 to have food delivered? Well, it's priorities. That's what they choose. That's what they choose to prioritize. So of course they have money for it. How did eggs were $10 a dozen in Los Angeles. I never went a single day without eggs. Now there was times when I was really having to strategize because the availability was so poor, but there was a lot of days where I was collecting $15 of cans and bottles and spending 10 of that on 1 dozen eggs, right? I mean, we all have our priorities. Part of that was at the time I was still at a reduced body weight and ill enough that I really needed the nutrition from the eggs. So I just wasn't willing to go without them. So it's like, all right, well, $10. Did I want to pay $10? No, I didn't. Did I pay $10? You're goddamn right I did. So did. So yeah, they will pay $20 for McDonald's. I don't know what Taco Bell costs. Now I'm seeing they're trying to bring back the value menu. I saw a billboard McDonald's, but it was like buy one, get one for $1, like whatever that was, some kind of burger, double burger, or I don't fucking know. I eat at McDonald's, whatever they've got in there. I used to occasionally, in my street level homeless days, especially if somebody gave me a gift card or whatever, but it got to where, I might have their sausage biscuits, but I realized that I would feel okay, I would eat sausage biscuits or just anything from McDonald's, and then like 2 hours later, I'd feel like just absolute trash. And as hard headed as I can be, as dense as I can be, it's like, oh yeah, this is clearly the McDonald's, sir. And it's not just McDonald's. I use McDonald's as sort of a stand-in for all fast food. Some people would just say, well, I don't eat McDonald's. Okay, well, whatever version of fast food. Yeah, I also was not a big McDonald's guy, but I used to go to Wendy's or Sonic or whatever it was. Sonic chicken strip dinner for lunch. Or back in the 90s, Wendy's fried chicken sandwich combo. Oh man, they're teaching me a lesson now. Yep, slow this truck down. You gotta play road sheriff and slow down the big truck, but don't factor in that I gotta try to climb this hill. So yeah, make sure to be safe by slowing me the fuck down. So I'll be going 36 at the top of this hill. Yeah, let's do that. I'm happy to back off once we get to the top of the hill. But yeah, good job. My favorite is when they hold me back at the stoplights, when we're all taking off from the stoplight. They got to hold me back at the stoplight. It's like, yeah, I understand some of these truckers are tailgaters. I'm not one of them. But I would like to get through on the green if possible. If y'all don't mind. We've lost the ability. They should be able to look in their mirror and say, oh, that truck is following me at a safe distance. But no, I have to be treated like the ones that ride their tail. I'm guilty for all of that, certainly. But I'll play my ultimate card, which is I'll get about a third of a mile behind them. They'll just start doing their normal driving. As long as I don't creep too close to them, they'll go at normal speed. Meanwhile, that same person, if I would tailgate them, would probably speed up, because 9 out of 10 of everybody, if they're tailgated, will speed up. And you got 1 out of 10 like me, I slow down. I slow down to tailgate me, whether it's in a car or a big rig. Yeah, I need to run and start at some of these hills, man. Looks like Popo up there, maybe. Hard to tell. So maybe. Yep. Nope. Yep. Nope. Nope, not the Popo. Somebody's expensive, nice SUV looks to have maybe broken down. Perhaps. Guess I probably ought to pay attention to the old GPS here, make sure we don't accidentally miss our exit. How long have we been driving here? 59 minutes. Did my laundry at the truck stop, man, and they had my top loader machines, but golly, so I always let the water fill up before I put my clothes in. That way it doesn't get unbalanced, I've noticed. And man, that water was fucking filthy, dude. It was disgusting. I guess there's a filter in there somewhere on the water line. If it doesn't get replaced on a normal cycle, it doesn't filter properly. Or maybe it doesn't drain from whoever. I don't know. I'm not a mechanical in that way. Or maybe it just doesn't properly drain from whoever used it before. Whatever the case may be. I almost just let them have the $3.50, but it's hard to know when I will be able to actually do my laundry. So I'll just mentally put that on the list of places not to do my laundry. And thankfully, I was actually able to back in at the truck stop last night. I, went online and paid ahead for $22 for a parking spot. Yeah. Thankfully, it wasn't. It was tight, but I was able to get in there pretty easily and passed out. Forgot to put my earplugs in. Woke up to somebody early in the morning. I'm assuming they were banging on their drum brakes, which were probably frozen up. I heard a tink, 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 tink. It's like, well, probably not getting back to sleep now because that's going to sleep so late, like 5 a.m. by then. Oh, well. Maybe you should remember to put your earplugs in, partner. Instead of crashing out like a stumble bump. So I don't know what they're going to have me doing this afternoon once we get this unloaded. I'm not sure if I actually had a firm appointment for 10 o'clock or not. I don't know. All I know is whatever they tell me. Sometimes I get told, be there by whatever time. And then you get there and they're like, oh, your appointment's at 1 p.m. It's like 10. Well, they told me to be here at 10 a.m. I don't fucking know. They just tell me whatever they want me to know. Some people, I think, actually try to call all of these places. My hit rate on number one, actually getting the right person on the phone is very low. But, assuming that it's even possible to, maneuver one's way through, and all the facilities are different, but even if I can get the appropriate person on the phone, most of the time it's, somebody whose default answer, it's always just going to be no. So maybe I could confirm the appointment time, right? Beyond that, I don't know that anything would be possible. So it's like, maybe I'm going to ask, do they have overnight parking? Well, if it's something they normally have, then probably it's in the Google reviews. Some truckers probably already wrote a review and said they have overnight parking if it's just a normal thing. And then sometimes if I'm there, I can just sort of use my charm and they'll just be like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. But it's not really something they offer, right? They'll just sort of just be like, oh yeah, go ahead, no problem. But if I call them ahead of time and it's not a normal thing, most people are going to just default to no. It's like, no, we don't do that. It's like, well, I don't know, maybe you do. Right? Well, I don't know, maybe you do. And then I'm not even ever going to play the well they did last time. It's like, well, okay, this is this time, sir. I don't know what to tell you. A lot of truckers kind of fall into that where they're sort of just indignant, and I want to complain. It's like, yeah, I complain too, but I don't complain to the people at the facility, or I don't call them on the phone, and like, that's never going to help. Oh yeah, this reminds me also watching these. I'm stopped at a stoplight. Well, we're of course stopped at a stoplight. A caller called in. Oh really? I mean, what else would they do? I like that when somebody's doing a podcast or whatever, or a radio show. A caller called in. Oh really? I'm shocked. I'm shocked that a caller called in. Either way, I was on some highway and but going through towns, stoplights, road construction, And here comes a funeral procession. And now I'm in a big rig, and there's like everybody driving through there, presumably it's locals. And there's really not anywhere for me to stop because of the road construction. It's like one lane. And now they're pulling off to the side. It's like, yeah, I'm happy to stop for a funeral procession if it makes sense. And so I just kept going. And then I get to the next stoplight, and there's no more funeral procession because you can't tell the difference. Because I think this is a funeral procession. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? So many people, so many of these cars now have daytime running lights. Now the traffic up ahead of me seems confused. They don't know what to do. And, yeah, let's all just stop on a fucking 4-lane divided highway. That's not dangerous. And what the fuck? But yeah, so then I just keep on going, and I get to the next light, and again, it's supposed to be 2 lanes, but it's 1 lane with barrels and all kind of construction. And there's, it's rush hour, whatever passes for rush hour in some small town somewhere, or smaller town, 5,000 people maybe. The main drag with businesses, and it's just like, I don't know. Is that a funeral procession? Is that the rest of the procession, or is that just people driving, all bunched together because of there's traffic? Like, you can't tell the difference. So, and I don't even know if that's illegal. I guess it is. If the cops pulled me over, I'd have been like, yeah, man, I couldn't tell the fucking difference. I saw the hearse and all that, but where I was at when I saw the hearse and the police escort, there really wasn't anywhere for me to stop without just blocking everything. And then, once I continued on, it's just 1 lane. Like, what do you want me to do, man? What am I supposed to do? Meanwhile, it's almost, again, it's back to the waking dream, surrealistic, unreality, deja vu all over again. It's like, oh, there's a funeral procession. Oh, you don't want to be seen as a bad person. Oh, look, the trucker, he's just continuing on. And then it's like it never happened. I went around a corner, and it's just, where is it? It's vanished. I mean, it's just like, is this even real? What about the being who can't, generally speaking, I can't experience fear, guilt, or shame because, oh my God, what are people going to think if they see me just, callously driving on? Meanwhile, do I have to pretend to give a fuck about whatever local person passed? Like, who cares? Oh my God, a local person died. I ain't from here. But again, yeah, if it's a normal roadway and there's a shoulder and there's an appropriate, yeah, sure, of course, why not? I'm not in that big of a hurry ever driving a truck, really. That's not safe. It's like, sure, but what if it doesn't make any sense? And also, something else that's been going on for a couple of days is this phenomenon of people waiting to pull out into the highway who will not pull out in front of cars, but they wait for me to come and then they pull out. And then psychologically, if there's 3 cars waiting to go, if the first car can safely go, that next car, it's damn near impossible for them to control themselves, even though it's no longer safe for them to go. So I already know what they're thinking, and that's why I'm on the air horn. I'm not mad at the one who pulled out in front of me because they did it safely and got the fuck out of the way. The air horn is for whoever's behind them, and if that second car goes, they're all going at that point. That second car might be able to control themselves. Let's say it's a 50-50, they pull out. The third car is going 100% of the time, unless I'm just already on the air horn, like, hey, are you crazy? So that's what that air horn is for. In case that second car goes, I know that third car is coming, unless I get on the air horn. It's part of being a safe driver. you know, and not doing it in an angry way. So I'm just toot, 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 like, hey, here I am, man. Meanwhile, it's like, why won't they pull out in front of the cars, but they'll pull out in front of me? Now, we know half of them want to be able to call the injury lawyer and get a check and all this, but sure, that's part of it. But damn, you know, I really wouldn't be that offended if it was just like, yeah, just people fucking pull out here. It's what they do. I went to Vermont for the first time. Everybody was pulling out in front of me, and I was like, well, this is just, they pull out in front of cars, they pull out in front of me, they pull out in front of each other. This is what they do here, apparently. So, all right, well, I guess that's what we're doing. And then my favorite is the people who can't go when it's all clear. They have to wait for somebody to come and then they can go. It's like, really? What the fuck, man? They'll just sit there, all clear, all clear, all clear, and wait for somebody to be coming and then go. It's like they can't. I think they think it's a trap. I guess it feels like a trap. They're like, how can there just be no traffic on the road? It's a bizarre phenomenon. Now, sometimes they're just on their phone, but you know, that's kind of the argument for looking up and seeing, oh, there's an 18-wheeler coming. Because, you know, I'm, especially as a pedestrian, you know, I may want to cross a road. You know, I'm pretty agile. Well, I mean, I am agile. I got good footwork, you know. But what I do when I'm walking and I got my head on a swivel, you know, and I might already think I can like jog across the street. As soon as I see that it's an 18-wheeler, I just stop. I'm like, well, why the fuck would I walk out in front of 18-wheeler? That doesn't even make sense. You know, it's bad enough to get hit by a vehicle. Like, that's going to be catastrophic if I actually got, like, it's not worth the risk. Why would I do that? Now, some might say, well, you know, your average truck driver might be a little more attentive to us pulling out in front of them, whereas one of these cars might not be paying as much of attention. It's like, yeah, that's true, but I think we're at about 76,000 pounds total. Like, this could be very bad if we were to collide with one another. And not so bad for me, probably. It says 34 miles, 51 minutes. Hell, last time I looked at the GPS, it said 51 minutes, and that was 10 minutes ago. Yeah, these dispatchers trip me out too. They just go by the miles, however many miles it is. They just estimate that, but it's like, yo, man, how long does it take to get across town wherever you live? You know, I'm basically, this is city driving. I'm driving across town. There's another one. Would not have pulled out in front of a car in that same situation, I promise you. And half of it is, I think a truck is like an optical illusion. They absolutely 100% would not have pulled out in front of a car. No fucking way. Now, see, here's one doing it appropriately. They're well ahead of me. You know, I'm going as fast as I physically can, and I can't catch it. There's no danger. There's nothing I can do. There's no chance of a collision. Yeah, please go. Absolutely. Please go. That's the whole point of driving in traffic. Yes, it's safe. Go. I don't think people can really judge those distances. And I've noticed with, especially the millennials and maybe some of these Gen Z, they've completely, the boys and the girls, they've totally lost the ability to judge speed and distance in drive. They don't have a fucking clue. They just can't for whatever reason. Now, if it was a video game, I bet they could. They've absolutely lost the ability, if they ever had it in the first place. Clueless. No idea. Oh, shit. Need to take my taurine. Having my second egg drink of the day. Egg yolks. Egg yolk drink. How we're getting close to Christmas, right? What's the date? Well, not quite. It's only the 9th. At what point, I don't know, man. It's already been a weird holidays, and they're all weird. Holidays are quite surreal in my experience, just generally. But Thanksgiving seemed to come and go and was just a blip. And other than holiday traffic is a very specific thing as a truck driver, people road tripping and such. But beyond that, and that was fairly limited, I would say, compared to times past. So I don't know, man. I guess this company will figure out some kind of way to keep me running over the holiday. I'm assuming. Ah, yes, normies. Normalize big rigs going 36 and a 55 on a highway through town. Yes. Normalize that. Thank you. Very helpful. They've made it into a group effort. I like looking in my mirror, and that's half the town back there. Normalizing my and then one actual human being goes by at about 65. Says, "Fuck this! I'm getting through here." Hey, look, an actual. I don't know if human being would be the right term. That's become more of a pejorative in my world. And look, the light's changing, and look who can actually stop. I think we've all seen truckers blast through on a yellow that's turning red, and they're going 63 miles an hour. It's like, yeah, Benton don't play that game. Which means I can't really go 55 through here because I'm not going to be able to come to a complete stop if I'm going 55 as I approach a green light that may very well turn yellow. Well, I hate to say it, Mark Baskett's weighing in on which are the best eggs, but in my experience of eating a fucking shit ton of egg yolks over an extended period of time, if you're buying them at the store, I mean, there ain't that much difference, but there is some difference. I agree. I've never gotten into the fertilizers myself, but uh, there's definitely some differences. But at a certain point, it was just, what can I get? The availability became so restricted. Supply was constricted. So lately, I've been mixing those, what are they called? They're a little bit more of the higher, the price anyway is a higher end price for, supposedly pasture raised or whatever, vital farms or vital eggs or whatever the fuck, which are not worth the price. They're just not. And I figured out them orange yolks are bullshit because they feed them turmeric. They put turmeric in the feed to make the yolks orange. So it doesn't even fucking matter. Although maybe it makes the eggs a little more nutritious. I don't know. But yeah, the orange ones aren't any better than yellow, in my experience. But I've been doing like half and half. So I've been doing 3 of those in each drink, and then 3 of my personal favorite is the Eggland's Best White, but the omega-3s. They feed them flaxseed. They mix flaxseed into their feed. Flaxseed, yeah, into the feed. Which they say it's less saturated fat. I actually want more fat. I want more saturated fat, but I definitely I can tell a difference with the omegas. The more omega-3, the better, in my experience. That's why I switch. Now that I'm working, I switch to the King Oscar Bristling. They call them sardines, but I think they're actually herring. But I don't even know at this point. But whatever they are, maybe they are sardines. But because they have, I think, almost 3 grams of omega-3s. That's what the package says. Whereas I think the regular old herring, the cheaper herring, is like 2 grams or 2,000 milligrams. It's like 1,900 versus 2,900, I think. Those are pretty fucking good, I have to say. Although, like everything else, inflation, I mixed it up earlier so I can just, and I'm not a big microwave person, but I found I digest it way better if it's warmed up. So I went ahead and mixed all that up, my meal, in a bowl with sardines. Now I bought like a $20 chopper, food chopper at Walmart, and I do like these individual packs of pistachios without the shells. It's, I don't know, 3/4 of an ounce, I guess, per package. I've been chopping those up. Otherwise, they tend to break my broken tooth. But throw that in there with the black beans and chopped garlic and white onions, raw onions, and cilantro with a can of black beans drained. Throw in some ginger, a little bit of nutmeg, and a little bit of cinnamon. Oh, and of course my habanero hot sauce. Don't forget about that. Get that in there. Delicious and nutritious. How about you? Delicious and nutritious. It's funny too. Last time I was in LA, Target ended up having the for where I was, and Yeah, I was sleeping in the car, but I wasn't driving the car, so I was going on foot everywhere, which I prefer anyway. But Target ended up more often than not. I'd go to Target for my eggs. It's just regular old white eggs. Trying to remember, the price got down to say like $4 a dozen in LA. That ain't bad. 369, something like that. Am I going to make it 31 more minutes without having to stop for the bathroom? Is the question. I don't know. Maybe not. Yeah, buddy. Yep. See, sometimes I just get curious what these people are doing when they follow me. But there's no traffic and they're just behind me. Sometimes I'll just get in the fast lane and just sort of see what they do. Because yeah, sometimes they are just too lazy to pass because they know their exit's coming up. But we just passed the exit. They're just back there cruising around. Why? That never would have happened. That would have been That would have been viewed as embarrassing to be seen by other people just following a big rig for no apparent fucking reason with a passing lane, an available passing lane. People would have looked and said, "What's wrong with that person? Why are they doing that?" So, I still have some of whatever that is. Just like, why? What are you doing? Bizarre. I'll never fully get used to that. Because you know what they've told us historically with the mom apple pie, American exceptionalism, bootstrapping, just the American dream. Everything America is historically, especially Cold War propaganda. Everything America was promoted as. It's kind of that's all of that promotion is sort of the opposite of the person. The person getting onto the highway and there's a nice highway with a passing lane and choosing to put the blinders on because they're tailgating a big rig that's 13 and a half feet high and they can't see what's up ahead. It's anathema to the the notion of how, in my opinion, it's anathema to how Americans historically have perhaps viewed themselves as individuals. You know, this sort of rugged individualism, just kind of cutting their own path. You know, going their own way, seeking to be leaders, right? Producing and you know, I even saw somebody. Now you start to wonder, are these bots? Like, what is this? But I saw somebody in YouTube comments talking about, and I think it was that guy that lawyer that covers Social Security Administration news, and make sure we're taking the correct road here. And he was on about somebody in his comments was talking about America and its prosperity, and I'm just like, what prosperity? Like, what are you talking about? What prosperity, sir? I mean, I don't, huh? And this does show, you know, and again, maybe that's a bot or maybe that's somebody who's, I mean, who even knows? But taking it at face value, like, there's absolutely people who still believe that America is prosperous, and you know, anything that's falls short of that is, well, that's Biden's poopy diaper or whatever. And you know, we really see it in truck driving, where a lot of people just, they treat all of the things that have happened in truck driving, especially around immigration, it's as if it never existed, and then Biden became the president in 2020, and then they act like it just started to happen for the first time. It's like, no. There's probably been versions of that happening my whole life. In fact, probably since the very, you know, it couldn't have been too much after deregulation that all of that started to occur. And I think people got so used to foreigners at these facilities. You know, they've gotten used to truckers coming in and either delivering or picking up loads who, you know, the fact is, if somebody's trying to go to these facilities, whether that's an intelligent person or not, it turns them into a dummy on some level. If they have trouble understanding, you know, I've been in Memphis, Tennessee, and the woman's trying to explain to team drivers from Mexico which dock to back up to, and they need to slide their tandem axles, and, you know, just whatever they need to be told. And, you know, they're trying to pull their phones out. Maybe Google will translate, you know, and Memphis culturally is just kind of basically the woman, you know, the black woman, you know, not in a derogatory way, but, you know, she's just basically like, this is their job to figure this out. You know, I'm here for whatever period of time I'm here, I'm doing my job, and they're typically really good at their jobs from what I've seen. And these black women in a place like Memphis, which is culturally similar in a lot of ways to where I'm from in Arkansas, and, you know, just sort of a specific cultural thing, you know, well, these are grown ass men. It's their job to figure out what the fuck I'm telling them and do it, you know. So they're standing there looking dumb, and I'm trying to figure out if I know enough Spanish to help out, you know. Well, not really. And I'm definitely starting to expect some just general relief of, oh, look, like it's a regular white guy when I show up now. Whereas in the past, I think everybody was kind of so beaten down, it was just sort of neither here nor there. Oh, look, here's another asshole. This one just happens to actually be from here with a Southern accent, you know. Versus now I'm talking to these people and it's sort of like, oh, look, he actually speaks the language, and we're, you know, we can, you know, share a, you know, a tender moment of, you know, maybe I can make some whimsical remark or whatever, you know, just, and, you know, I can tell them if I need them to know something, or I need to ask a question, or if they need to tell me something. It's like, oh, we can actually communicate with each other. Isn't this amazing? It's like, yeah. And it's also further proof of something I talk about a lot, which is, I think I missed my chance to stop for the bathroom. perhaps. But it's something I've talked about. But there's simply no end to what the American people will tolerate. It's like, oh, look, foreign truck drivers that don't speak the language everywhere. Like everybody gets used to it. So now I go to the truck stop. It's like, yeah, I still see a Sikh person in Germany. Near I seen a few of them when I first started. I don't see any of them now. Maybe they said, fuck it, we'll just go to, and this is a slow time of year, so a lot of these people do own their own trucks and all of this. So, maybe they say, fuck it, we'll just go back to the Congo or whatever, come back early next year and, see what's going on. I mean, who the fuck knows? Because I don't know if the government's actually cracking down, but this self-deportation seems to be a thing. Or maybe people just hiding out, And then a lot of them probably can't afford to hide out. So it's like, well, back to wherever. And then something I've known about for a long time is, if y'all remember Ross Perot when he ran for president, that was when Bill Clinton won his first term, 92. And George W. Bush, George Herbert Walker Bush, my bad, Daddy Bush, Bush 41, was a one-term president. And that was the election he lost was Ross Perot ran. And that was the whole, and of course, Saturday Night Live made fun of him and his big ears, Ross Perot, but that was his, his funny manner. But, the giant sucking sound, if anybody even remembers that, that was a big thing in the news for a couple of months probably. And that was NAFTA, which was him talking about, economically what was going to happen with NAFTA. And part of NAFTA was, probably, and I don't know if it was for the first time, but it, further normalized, especially Mexican truck drivers crossing the border in big trucks and delivering one load, but then legally and right at the level of regulations, they're supposed to go back to Mexico. And they're supposed to be prohibited from continuing to haul freight. So they're not supposed to pick up in America and deliver in America. They're supposed to go right. And what we've seen is that hasn't really, I'm sure it's been enforced to some extent, but it's they've more or less been free to just continue hauling freight. So that's been a thing also. That seems to be dying down. I see way less. You would even see a lot of trucks at a certain point with Mexican and like Texas tractor plates. They'd have registrations in Texas and in Mexico. I'm not seeing near as much of that either. Welcome to South Carolina. I'm wondering, I don't think so, but one time when I left out of Fayetteville, Arkansas and hitchhiked all through the deep South, and I do remember entering South Carolina on foot. And so I did a lot of walking amongst the hitchhiking, and I think I came through here on foot. There's a state park back there. Might not be the same one, but I filled up my water bottle and took a rest at that state. It was wintertime. Took a rest at that state park. I don't know. I'd have to really look at the map and try to figure it out. Could be though. That happens to me a lot truck driving, where I'll be looking around like, this looks familiar. Oh yeah, I'm almost certain I came through here hitchhiking, walking, sleeping rough. Show enough, buddy. I've been everywhere, man. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I got a mud flap needs replaced too, but which I'd probably just do that myself. But uh, the bracket got bent, so it's just gonna get another hole wore. And if I replace the mud flap, it's just gonna tire is gonna wear another hole in it. So some tech. I certainly don't. I no longer have the physical strength to do something like that. If I ever did, well, I'm sure I did it at some point. There'll be no straightening that out. So I don't know if my physical strength is ever going to entirely return from my several years of illness. Local recycling center where the public can come bring their recyclables. Interesting. Just a parking lot basically with some bins. Bins. Yeah, definitely probably should have stopped for the bathroom break. All right, I guess I'm going to get out of here since we're almost there anyway. Thanks for watching. Bye.